Hey parents, welcome back to Parenting on Purpose, your podcast for the entrepreneurial parent, the homeschooler parent, and those parents not wanting to be in a box. We're really excited to have our amazing guest clear across the world join us today, Miss Lauren Smith. Lauren, how are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. Tell me where you are again.
I'm in South Africa.
That's awesome. I know we did our
Yeah.
pre-call a few weeks ago, and it sounds amazing. And you're in between two of the major cities, but you're kind of off in like a nice rural area, right?
Yeah, so in the middle of South Africa, halfway between Joburg and Cape Town, and small little town. Very quiet, but very nice.
That's beautiful. I love that because like you have the best of both worlds, right? You have the
I
city
do.
life kind of accessible. Like I'm closer to Miami and Fort Lauderdale down here in Florida, but then I also get the chance to be like out a little bit in the rural country when needed. And I
That's so
love this
good.
because of what you do. So Lauren is here today. She is a entrepreneurial coach, and she specializes in the five or
Yes,
six,
five.
five. The five types of imposter syndrome that keep entrepreneurs from getting to the next level and maybe even starting their ventures. So I know on this podcast, we're parents first and foremost, and we show up and we love our kids, but we also have our own goals and desires and dreams, whether that's starting a podcast or a business. So Lauren specializes in helping people like us market ourselves and get out in the market. But I love that you do that and you have this global reach and you do it from this really cool small city or small town in South Africa. That's awesome.
I love that too. I love that the internet gives us this opportunity because it is so amazing. I've made amazing connections all over the world, and in my small little town who has like limited opportunities if you actually think of it. So it's really, really great.
And before we get into it, I think what you do is so needed because like when you're younger and you're reading all the books and all the stuff, like you're coming out of college, I don't think we put as much emphasis on coaching. And I think the people who win really quickly and who fail really quickly are the ones who understand that one, failure is good, and that two,
Yeah.
like coaching is imperative for the success of whatever venture you're trying to start. So I just love that. I think everybody needs a Lauren, and I'm just super excited to talk about what you do and the five types of imposter syndrome. So we always start our podcast off the same way. I want you to introduce yourself, but as a intro to your intro, I'd love for you to share with our audience what's one thing you do, Lauren, to show up on purpose in your life as a parent or an entrepreneur, just one thing that you do, especially as a mom of a new baby. Like you have to be strategic about it.
Yes, no, definitely. So yeah, I'm a coach for female entrepreneurs, and I really help female entrepreneurs who are newer in business to get visible, get out there, and market themselves, and get clients, and get consistent clients and money in. And then I also specialize in the 5 different types of imposter syndrome, because so often we know what we should be doing in our marketing, but we're not actually doing it, or we are stuck in like procrastination, or like all of these little symptoms that we kind of do, which we'll get into, instead of actually doing the thing that we need to be doing to get visible and to get the clients, because we don't feel like we're good enough. So when I figured this out, it was so exciting for me. I come from a design and marketing strategy background, so I was doing that since 2011. And then I pivoted into coaching. Being able to like give the strategy and the coaching and the mindset was really just my passion. I love it so much. I think it's so fascinating how our brain works and how we get to the next level. Like you mentioned, like failing is a good thing, and it helps us learn. It helps us get there so much faster.
Yeah.
So I guess one thing that helps me show up on purpose is so I want to say, like, this year my word is like committed. So no matter what, it's like showing up and being committed to the goal that I'm trying to get, but also just like being somebody that like manages her mind and manages like how I show up, and then try to do my best in like time management and like all of the other things that we need to balance with like kids and and everything, because like for me it doesn't come naturally to like be good at managing my time. So so trying to show up on purpose is really just like being committed and then letting that drive my action. So with mindset also, like when you have the belief that what you're busy doing is going to give you the goals and the success that you're looking for, you can almost like throw away your to-do list, because you are knowing that what you're putting out there is going to drive your goals. But when you have the disbelief, which is also where the imposter syndrome comes in, then you kind of like doing sort of things that aren't driving you to be more visible and all of those things. So yeah, I'm just really trying to be somebody that manages my mind on top of trying to take action towards my goals.
That was awesome. This is so perfectly timed for me. Like we're in the process of launching a snack brand, and we pre-launched, and then I had to go back to the drawing board. I had to fire my co-manufacturer and hire a new one. And it's like all my business coaches are like, you have to say that you have to keep posting more like content. And this type of content, I love doing this. It's so easy for me.
Yes.
Like I'm just being vulnerable and honest. But like I am struggling with some of the marketing for myself with the other brand. Like this to me is so natural, because maybe it's because it's not about me and this is just me being very vulnerable. It's more about me providing you, like being the concierge between people like you and my audience. So I think because I'm making it not about myself, it's so easy to show up. Oh, this is going to be a good one. I'm excited.
So good.
Before we jump into it though, when you say managing your mind, what does that look like? Does that look like becoming, because most people on our podcast that are showing up and they're so successful, they all have some version of what you just said. It's like a morning routine or some type of meditation or some type of practice to get into like a place of presence. So when you say managing your mind, what does that mean to you?
So for me specifically, that looks like journaling every day. And because we want to like mirror our thoughts to ourselves, we really just want to become super aware and super conscious and curious about what's happening in our mind, because ultimately our thoughts are driving the results that we get in our lives. And if we aren't just aware of what's happening in our thoughts and managing that, then we're just getting results that we don't want, and we're not sure why we're getting those results. So it's really, really important for us to be aware, to journal, to have like that mirror, because journaling is really just like mirroring back what's happening in your mind. And then I manage it in that way by I'm like, oh, I had this thought. That's interesting. I thought that people starting out their business doesn't have money to invest in coaching. Oh, that's interesting. That's not true though, because there's people who have 9 to 5s and they've got savings and they've got these things and they want the support and they want the coaching, for example. Or I feel like I don't have the time, or my thought is I don't have the time. But if I go and analyze where I'm spending my time and things like that, then it becomes really fascinating. And that's how you manage your mind to get the results that you're looking for, which is, it's really a game changer when you don't always have to be hard on yourself. I think that is not the purpose of being mindful and managing your mind and journaling. It's not going, oh, I'm thinking this thought, I must stop thinking this thought, and like really being hard on yourself. But it's about like going, oh, that's interesting. Why do I believe this? And what's going on there? And how can I shift to get different results? Because this thought is obviously not helping me at all. Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Like, because it means so many different things to people. And I think personally, and I know a lot of friends who like might try 1 or 2 modalities. And if it doesn't work, we're kind of pre-genetically disposed to like just stop and try something different. And it's nice to understand. And what I glean from this is you're getting the space around your thought by writing it down. It allows you to take it out of here, meaning like I no longer think this is Caitlin. Now I can put it on paper and just be like, oh, this is separate from me. And it's something I can manage. I can play with. I have that curiosity, is how you said it. Yeah. And I love that. And it helps you to kind of get your limiting beliefs out. And I venture, as we get into the imposter syndromes, it'll help you understand your mechanisms and help you to go past it. So cool. That was awesome. One quick sidebar, because I'm super squirrel. As we get into this, you mentioned people having money for coaching. Like obviously that's something you were working through at that moment. I follow this gentleman in business. I talk about him all the time on the podcast. His name's Alex Hormozy. And like traditionally in life, we're always taught to like take a part of our savings and invest it, right? Whether that's like the S&P 500 or real estate, or, and it's a long-term strategy. It's a certain percent of your income, maybe get 9.4% over the long term, but it's going to beat inflation. So it's like the way to win. And I think a lot of people on our podcast are going through some of that money management, what to do that's better. One of the reasons I started to go to my own business and started to try and build something for myself is he has this concept of the S&Me 500. So instead of investing that amount of money that you would put into, the S&P 500 or whatever mutual fund or stocks, you take that same amount of money and you put it in yourself. If you look at that over a 5-year span, what will give you a bigger return? And you obviously have to be able to do something. You have to show up and do the work. But if you do that, the fulfillment and the monetary gain of what you will get is exponentially higher. And obviously people that are successful do invest in stocks and they are diversified, right? But it's just a difference in thought that it takes it from being very like reactive to very proactive. And you really can change your life. And that stuff motivates the heck out of me. Even in the throes of parenthood, right?
Yes. I think it's so amazing what you can do if you invest in yourself and in your mindset and in your thoughts and in the way that you're currently creating your results and trying to shift that into the results that you really want. And then like saying that, because definitely, even if it's just life coaching or whatever, it can change how you work with money and how you live your life, because you're going to realize, for example, well, is it worth it getting takeout every Friday or whatever, and then like, rather use that money to do something else? And that's what life coaching will help you realize. It's not about saying this is the way you should do it and this is the way you shouldn't do it. It's about figuring out how you need to do it. And that's sort of the same in business as well. Like you'll get a lot of opinions about like, you need to do this and you need to do that, I guess in parenting too. But in the end of the day, you need to actually analyze like what can you do and what do you want to do to get the results that you want, and where's your comfort zone. So not go like, oh, I don't want to do that because that's out of my comfort zone, like pushing yourself as well to go out of your comfort zone to get those results, but still like not just going through every day, living every day without, and then wondering why you're getting the results that you're getting without really like going to dig into why you're getting the results that you're getting. So that is so good. I love that so much.
It's important because it takes you to that next level. Like, I don't think we have to survive and like buy things and, do all the, and be with the kids and do all the things. But I think that's why having time in the morning or whenever, however that looks for you as an individual, is so important, because it does give you the time to be present in your own life, to dissect it. And I don't think we always are so present or so cognizant, is probably the better word, to why we feel like crap. I think sometimes we just understand, like, I think of it as like a moral, like there's a compass to true north, and like our bodies are like disposed to knowing what that feels like that feels good. And then if we're off, it starts to feel icky. And a lot of times it's like convoluted and kind of ironic, like the God of the universe plays tricks on us, but we have to like go figure that out. Why do you feel off? And then you have the choice, the ability to go make those different decisions. I love what you said about takeout. Like the way one of my coaches used to frame it is, you get to vote with your time. You get to vote with your money. Every investment you make of time or energy or money is a vote. And you're going to see the ROI where you put your investment. Right. Exactly. So it takes the power and it gives you the power back. It's not like I have to do this. No, you get to. This is exciting. I love that. Okay. I'm like super excited. However you want to start, about, getting into this work, the imposter syndromes, how you help your clients. I'd love to learn. I'm excited.
Yeah. So let's get into the imposter syndrome. So basically for those, I know it's like quite thrown around quite a lot, so many people know what it is, but basically it's like you don't believe that you're good enough, no matter how the evidence shows that you are actually good enough to take compliments or to be running your business or whatever the situation is. Like, even though the evidence shows that you are good enough, you still don't believe that you're good enough. And so there are some symptoms that you get from those beliefs. And so the 5 different types that you get. So the first one is the perfectionist. The perfectionist is exactly what it is. So you believe everything needs to be perfect and you need to do everything perfectly in order to be good enough. The second one is the superwoman or man. So you find downtime really stressful because you just need to be on, and go all of the time. So that's also when it's really hard for us to be present with our kids because we're like, I should be doing this thing and I need to be doing that thing and all of the things that you need to be doing. And you can't actually take that time to be really present with your kids and things. The third one is the natural genius. This is one that I have really struggled with. It's where you previously found things really easy to do. And so now when you struggle with something, you don't want to do it. You think you're a failure. You feel like you have to get things right on the first go. And so you don't want to take up challenges or really push yourself because you're worried that you're not going to get it right. And then the fourth one is the soloist. So the soloist feels that they need to do everything on their own in order to be good enough. So, for example, if you're in a team at work or maybe even at home, you feel like you need to be doing everything. You can sort of sabotage and bottleneck the results or the goal because it takes so much longer to do it, or you're just like, I will just do everything. In order to feel good enough. And then the fifth one is the expert. So the expert feels like they need to know everything in order to be good enough. So they do certification after certification. They don't like put up their hand or ask questions or answer questions if they feel like they're going to look stupid. So they, for example, if you're looking for a job and somebody's like, this is what we're looking for, and you don't tick one of those boxes, but all of the other boxes you tick. You're like, I'm not going to apply to this job. I don't tick all the boxes, or I'm not going to approach this person to become a client, or this person isn't a potential client because of this one thing type of thing. So,
Wow.
So those are the 5 different types. And the symptoms of it is like procrastination and learning all the time instead of like writing your blog or writing your content.
She's talking to you, Caitlin. Yeah. Thank you, God.
So yeah, it's really fascinating actually when you get into that, because then you're like, oh, okay, sheesh, this is why I'm doing that. Like, it's not just like a joke to be like, oh, I'm OCD, everything needs to be perfect or whatever. It's actually shouldn't be something that we boast about. It's really something that, doesn't have to be the narrative of your story. Like, it can be something that you shift and be like, it's okay to put something out there and it's not like perfect up to my standards, because it's okay to fail. Like, failing isn't actually failing. We should change that word completely. It's really, really learning, getting to the next level and stage. And we do it so much faster if we actually just take more action.
Oh
So
my God.
yeah.
I have several questions to unravel here.
Awesome.
Do you find that people, like, I feel like this feels like late at night when you're watching an infomercial and they're like reading off the symptoms. I'm like, oh crap. I have this. I'm stage 4, whatever this is. Do you find that people come to you with like all 5, more than one of these things? Is that common?
Yes, so it is definitely common. There's nothing wrong with you if you feel like all 5 resonate with you. What happens is that so I've also experienced all 5 of them, and sometimes we experience them in different situations. So, for example, like, you might only be experiencing this one, and then something happens that has never happened before, and then you kind of experience another one, or you experience some of all of them at the same time. So yeah, they definitely overlap. And when I said like I have struggled with the natural genius the most, that one's just like the one that comes up the most, like where I avoid all of the things because I don't want to fail and so on. So yeah, all of them, definitely, there's nothing wrong with you.
This is super fascinating. So are the, like, when you help your clients through these, I guess I have a few questions. Like, how do you identify which one someone is currently experiencing? And then are the workthroughs or the workarounds or the breakthroughs, are they the same for each of the syndromes, or do they vary, like, depending on which one they have?
Yeah, so they definitely they also overlap some of the tools that I then teach you to help you manage that. And I'll definitely share some of that with you guys here. But some of them do vary depending on which one you have more than the other one. So for example, if you're the superwoman, you want to, or man, you want to like release the reins a bit and then like practice being more present, for example, and being like, okay, I am practicing, like putting my phone away, spending these 10 minutes with my kids, and I'm just going to show my brain that it is okay to do this. And like after the 10 minutes, you can pick up your phone, you can check all your emails, and you can do all the things that you need to do. But the more you can show your brain that it is safe to do this thing, the more you can practice it, and then the more you can feel safe doing it. Because also, the extreme of imposter syndrome, the extreme of like people pleasing and things is also sometimes trauma responses. But if we work on like just trying to practice the small things, so what I'm trying to say here is we actually have this fear of something bad's going to happen, right? We're not going to be good enough. People are going to judge us. We're going to have rejection, all of those things, which is totally natural because your brain is saying, you know, it's not safe. It's just really trying to keep you safe. But we can analyze it and then show our brains like, it's okay. It is safe to take off. It is safe to slow down. Nothing bad's going to happen. In fact, we can be more productive if we like rest properly, you know, things like that. So definitely, so there's different tools for different types. And then kind of like how I mentioned, you know, when you identify the different types, that's where you can kind of identify that within you. So when clients come to me, I just have a bit of a conversation and I like ask them a couple of questions and then I can identify that. So for example, I just had a client recently and she was like, I'm struggling to just post normal, usual things on social media because I don't want to, because I feel like, what's the point? Like she was saying, like, what is the point of saying those things? And I was like, well, why does your opinion not matter? You know, like, why can't you just share your opinion? Or she's like, I don't want to share this funny thing because I'm like, why would people want to see that? And I was like, well, somebody else shared it and you found it funny. So like, why don't you share it? You can, you know, people need to learn your personality and your brand as well as an entrepreneur, because that's what makes you different from the next health coach or, you know, designer or whatever it is that you do. And so when we dug into that, she was like, she doesn't want to sound stupid, you know, and I know that she does a lot of certifications and she finds knowledge. Yeah. She's like, people who are knowledgeable are important and things like that. And so through that conversation, I could figure out that she is definitely experiencing the expert imposter syndrome.
Yeah. That's what I was
and
thinking.
So we just like you just really kind of dig in with the questions, and it might overlap, but it also sometimes would have like a very you know, enhanced, one of them that you're experiencing is very enhanced.
And super intriguing. This is cool work. Man, I like want to ask you how you got into it, but I don't want to get off of my like my thought process. So then I got a text message, I got knocked off my process. So for how people develop these things, because what I'm feeling in my heart as you're talking and explaining them is like, you said it earlier, like it can go back to trauma responses or just like underlying things, even if it's not traumatic, like underlying limiting beliefs, underlying systems of belief within somebody that now they get the chance to play with. So I always try and like put perspective around these things in my own life. Like these are great to me. The way I feel about this is so awesome. You now have given personification or like extrapolated these things that are holding people back, that they can now separate from themselves and they can work through. And I'm sure this propels them not only in business, but their personal relationships and
Yes.
every aspect. Because it's you said it earlier as a mirror. It's like an unfolding of a part of themselves that they can now look at and be present with, and then decide how they want to move forward. And it's just so cool to me to see these elements of like self introspection making their way into business, and how people who are very successful really did go through a lot of this work to be this way. It's very
Yeah.
cool.
It is. And it's also just something that we keep managing, because just because you hit the next level or make the amount of money that you've been working towards doesn't mean that imposter syndrome doesn't come up for us. So like I mentioned earlier, sometimes you'll be in a new situation. So you might be in a new level of business with a new income level, and some imposterisms and things will come up. But the thing is, when we are managing our mind, we notice it so much faster. And then we can get ourselves out of that hole so much faster, because then we know what actions to take. Oh, okay, I'm thinking this. Why am I thinking this? Okay, let's try and take action anyway. Or I am switching on Netflix. I don't usually, do this. What am I avoiding? Type of thing. Like, I'm not saying don't watch Netflix.
Yeah.
I just know when I get knee deep into a Netflix series, then I know that there's something I'm
I do too.
avoiding.
It's an issue.
Yeah.
I'm like a binger.
Yes.
I'm a serial monogamist. If I start one thing, like you ain't gonna see me until that Outlander season is done. Like I'm just like
watching it all the time.
it's the
Yeah.
best.
So really just being able to manage it so much faster, and then get yourself out of that hole so much faster,
So
which
going
is
back to
also
the
really
oh
important.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
No, sorry. Sometimes with the lag, it's the worst because we're like, um, so going back to the why, like how it develops and what people are trying to avoid, like it's almost like with the expert or the natural genius, like you're afraid to really be seen. You're afraid to like be seen as you are, which is like in your mind less than perfect, but not truly the case. And so you have to kind of work through that. So since procrastination is like a prerequisite or a symptom for all of them, like I'm trying to ask, like if you're a listener and you're experiencing any of these symptoms, what are some of the tools? Obviously reach out to Lauren, please. But what are some of the tools they can sit with or play with to get them to understand which of the syndromes they are experiencing the most? And I can use myself as an example. Like I've gone hard to the hoop on the podcast. I love this podcast. The podcast developed as a opportunity to serve parents, and it's something I'm very passionate about. I'm also equally passionate about my co-founder, my daughter, helping her and I launch the snack brand to help bring healthier options to people, and really with the intent of getting families back into nature and connecting together.
So
But
good.
it's so much easier for me to make content for this. And like that is more challenging. And I think it's because I have to sit there and tell my story, and I feel like weird about that, but I'm not the only one. I am literally on like 5 masterminds, Lauren, of people. Like I'm about to grow your like subscription base like 10 times right now. Because I'm going to share this with all of my entrepreneur friends, because we all struggle with it. So like,
Yeah.
what is that?
Yeah, I think it's imposter syndrome, not all of it. I mean, it's our minds. It's our minds telling us we're like not worthy of this. And we have to put ourselves out there. We like fear of rejection. It's a real thing. And
Yeah.
and when we can work with our mind, and we can be okay, like rejection's always going to be there, and people teasing you is always going to be there or whatever. But if you are willing to feel that negative emotion, which means you are willing to like work through the triggers that come up and the thoughts and the emotions that are coming up after you have done something, then you do it more often, because you're okay with being rejected. You're like, it's fine. The person who needs to hear this is going to hear this, and is going to like get the purpose of why I'm putting this out. Like they're going to connect to nature. They're going to see the benefits, And I think it's really hard for us, because our brains are constantly telling us how like it's going to fail, you can't do this. It's trying to keep you safe, right? So what happens especially in marketing, we're not actually focusing on our best client. We're focusing on the judges and the people who are going to say something negative to us. And then we're like, oh, well, let me write this in a way so that they can't judge me, or they can't reject me, or they can't say this thing, instead of just going like, they are going to be there anyway, and they're not my target audience, and maybe they'll become my target audience someday, but who I'm focusing on right now is my best client, and not even just my mediocre client. It's like my best client. They already want a healthy snack. They already love nature and want to be more connected to nature. They're like, who is your best client? And I think it's really like, I think it just comes back to like, looking at like, what do we fear? What's going on here? What's like the underlying thing happening here? So yeah.
You are damn good. This is so good. You're dropping bombs. So entrepreneurs, I think, like I speak for myself, but I literally am in a group of like a few hundred people, and I know others struggle with this because we talk about it. And it's like you don't know where to start. So what I'm understanding, a few things that you're saying is like, number one, you're hedging. You are emotionally hedging because you're trying to protect yourself. Like you're trying to put yourself out there, but at the same time, you're trying to protect yourself. So in doing that, like you're not effectively getting the messaging out. Like when you went to there, that is fascinating to me, because to me, that's a tactical thing that you can be cognizant of and change. I'm going to back up and I'm going to come back. So as you understand you have imposter syndrome, just to make sure I'm understanding your messaging clearly.
Yeah, perfect.
You need to create awareness that is happening, which is easy. Then you need to create space for you to play in whatever is making that uncomfortable for you, and give your brain the opportunity to understand you are safe here. There's nothing to be afraid of. And then you do it a little bit more and more until that kind of subsides.
Yeah. And being okay with like, okay, I don't do well with rejection. Obviously, a lot of us don't. But being like, I'm putting this out there for this person. This is why I started it. And then, yes, just like slowly taking a step and being like, hey, look, brain, we are safe. Can you believe that? Who would have thought? And then just like keep taking that. So yeah, it's like we want to like journal, like have a mirror of what's going on. We want to look at so when we journal, we have a look at like what's going on in our brain, like mirror that back to us. Then we want to really look at what we fear and why are we thinking certain thoughts. And that's when we get to dig into it deeper and we become more curious about it. So tools that I would share with the different types of imposter syndrome is, the first one would be like, you're journaling, you're asking yourself, what do you fear? Why do you fear this thing? What's the worst that can happen? And then if nothing could go wrong, like what would you be doing? Like if nothing could go wrong, what would you be doing? That's a really great question to ask yourself and to like reflect on. And then like one of the tools that's really helpful for all of the imposter syndromes is to actually keep evidence. And I'm sure you've heard of other coaches saying this, but it's really helpful to keep evidence of like how you have been able to do the thing that you have done. Like it's a review, or it's a compliment, or it's like a result that you've helped somebody get. But what I also like teaching my clients is, not only do you want to like read that often, every time, like say somebody sent you a text message and they were like, thank you so much for helping me, and this is the result I got, I'm so appreciative of you. And it like gives you obviously a good feeling, right? You helped somebody and it feels so good. So you put that into a folder, and every time you read that, you try and feel that good feeling that you felt when you got that message. Because the more we can practice that feeling, the more we can feel good, and the more we can believe that we are actually good enough to be doing the things that we need to be doing. A really amazing book that I recommend people reading is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. It's really like, he talks about how you need to practice the good feelings and practice that happening, instead of going, oh, everything's going so great, when is the penny going to drop? When is the next bad thing going to happen? Because that's immediately the thing that we're trying to do. And so that's one of the tools that, even if you experience all of them, that's something you can practice.
Cool. These are really good. every single person we've had on, like, that I can think of, and like a lot of my coaches talk about this, right? Whether it's like the reticular activating system, like we are meant to see and find evidence for what we think. So
Yeah.
if you're actively trying to build new habits or change those beliefs, you have to find evidence for that, and then you have to save them, review them often. But even in business, like one of my business coaches talks about, every time you get a positive review or every time you get a comment or something, like to screenshot it and to share it,
Yeah.
because now you're reaffirming to yourself, and then you're also helping build like-minded people,
Yeah.
right? Is really cool. I love psychology. It's just fun to
Yes.
watch how all this, because it's like there's so much out there, and when you have someone like you who can bring this stuff together and make it like understandable, it's amazing. Can we go back a second to the marketing component, because you were
Yes.
mentioning specifically what I think is so genius is that you help provide the infrastructure psychologically, and then you bring it into marketing, because that is how you are putting yourself out there in the world. And you mentioned that people are hedging, or they're not speaking to their ideal client. They have a clear message, but then they're getting lost. And I've watched me and my cohort do this, where you're like, how do I appeal to everyone? How do I get views on TikTok? How do I do this? How do I make this appealing to the masses? And what you're saying is that's not the right path. That's
Yeah.
that's fueling your imposter syndrome, and you're going to attract not the right results. So can you help, or can you just talk a little bit more on how you help your client to talk to that ideal person? In business, there's a lot of exercises to find your like avatar, or customer interviews to get you to that understanding of what that is. So you can have and typically you're scratching your own itch, right? As a business owner,
Yeah.
you're doing something that helps you. So you're talking to people like you. So like once you have an idea of who that avatar is, or in your vernacular, that ideal client, how do we do the correct messaging that's just to them? And then I guess the better question is, how are we mindful to not let the imposter syndrome creep in, so we're not just like doing it for the wrong
Totally.
reasons?
So fascinatingly enough, like when I came across the imposter syndrome and helped myself, I had like this huge aha moment. And so what I also do is I not only help you to understand imposter syndrome in yourself and how you are showing up, but I also help you to understand your ideal client through imposter syndrome. Because so often when your ideal client, because yes, we can get to the avatar and we can understand more or less who it is, but it doesn't really help knowing, like, they have like blonde hair, or some of the questions that they make you answer when you're looking at your ideal client. But what really helps with marketing is creating that emotional connection. And so when you understand like what imposter syndrome they're experiencing, you can understand why they have a belief as to not purchasing your offer, for example. So if you're a virtual assistant and you have the soloist imposter syndrome, you're going to go, but I can't ask people to help me because otherwise I'm failing, right? And so you can actually speak to that in your content, and help your ideal clients understand what's happening for them, and then also like get them to say like you are actually worthy of getting help. Like it doesn't mean you're failing in your content or whatever. But coming back to
This
your
is
other
good.
question,
Wow.
it
I
is
love this.
so awesome. Like because it's so often you'll see like people with like pain point marketing and things like that. Like when you look at some of the pain points that they're talking to, it is actually a lot of the imposter syndrome symptoms. Like you're procrastinating, and you're scrolling on social media, which is avoidance, which is also like not taking action and feeling you're good enough, type of thing. So so it really makes it so fascinating. But coming back to like you having imposter syndrome yourself and like then writing content, it's really also about your intention. So that's why I like being mindful and being present, or as much as you can. I know sometimes we're just like trying to get as much done in our business because we have kids and we have our businesses and we have our life going on. But trying to see what the intentions are behind that. Because also, like, if you are writing a post with the intention to be like, I'm doing this just so that I can be good enough, then the way and the energy that comes through in that talking and approaching people, they kind of like oh, but like you
You,
are
you
good
feel it.
enough.
You
Yes,
feel
yeah,
it.
but you don't feel like I believe it for you, but you don't believe it. So how am I supposed to trust you and buy from you type of thing, you
Interesting.
know? So when we set our intention and you're more like mindful of like, okay, I'm going to try and think of my best client today and write to them, knowing that they already have these things in place. They already know that they want the natural things or they want to be connected to nature or things like that. Then you're mindful and your intention behind it is so much different, and the energy behind your content or your marketing or like meeting in person is then so much different. Because so sometimes we can be like graspy for like sales or like scared to ask for the money or all of the things because we're making it mean something.
Interesting.
And we've all been there, like
Yeah.
this is not like a judgment, but when we can really be intentional and be like, okay, but what do I really want from this, and why am I feeling bad charging money and all of those things, then our intentions and our actions are different and the energy is different.
And I think the one you just hit on is so imperative for entrepreneurs. I hear that one constantly in our like masterminds where people struggle with like price points and charging for things, or even like in communities of service where you're providing a service for your work, to charge the right amount. And there's a lot of like self work that comes along with that. Okay, so that was a sidebar, but that was fascinating. You mentioned earlier, like when you were talking to your ideal client, which was like, this is like your field to me. You have a client, I'm a client, sign me up, I'm ready. Um, but your field to me
So
is
good.
so fascinating. So you were talking about when you are talking to your ideal client, you also are talking to their like through their procrastination syndromes type thing,
Yes.
or imposter syndrome. Sorry,
Yeah.
procrastination feels like a syndrome sometimes.
I think it is. So don't worry.
It's my syndrome of failure. So then you said more recently, like a few seconds ago, when you are clear with your intention and you are speaking to that ideal client, you're what I'm understanding. So I want to ask for clarification. You're
Yeah, no
speaking to
problem.
them clearly without that baggage there of whatever imposter syndrome that they would maybe have. You're speaking directly to them whole, like the whole version of them, right? Am I understanding that
Yeah.
correctly?
Yeah. So you could be speaking to, they could still be experiencing imposter syndrome and you could still be like helping them process that. So it really also depends on your ideal client. Like, do they know that they want healthier snacks, or do they need to be like a little bit more educated on wanting healthier snacks? Like, why do you want to be talking about this thing, you know?
Oh,
Like,
that's good.
so for a health coach, for example, I had a client who was like, she her clients know that they should be drinking more water, but they're not, you know.
Mhm.
So it's not that they don't know that they should be drinking more water, it's that they're not drinking water because maybe emotionally they don't feel worthy of like actually having a healthy body, you know.
Wow.
They're like, well, you know, I'm last on the list. I'm the mom. I need to take care of everyone. There's no time for me, and that's okay. Like pushing away like your mental health and your health, and maybe using somebody else as like an excuse, but actually emotionally you don't feel worthy of like having that health, for example. But you
So,
know that you should be doing it.
okay, so let's keep this example for a second. Let's say we're it's amazing the power of like a suggestion because you're like not worthy of water, and I'm like, like I'm like looking, I'm like yeah, and I'm like I just drank 4 sips of water. I haven't drank water the whole podcast. Um, it's just we are just such emotional like beings.
Yes,
It's
yes,
hilarious.
yes, so good.
It's like almost comical, right? Like whether you're a
Yeah,
universe type person, Scientology or God, like at some
exactly.
level, it's just comical. They're just like, look
Yeah.
at the little ponds tripping themselves up. Let's stick with the water example. So in this case, you have this product or service to help people to hydrate better. And you are understanding that they might have imposter syndrome around being worthy of water. So let's like a clear message to that. Would it look something like you are worth this, or like, you know, how would she appropriately market or target that market? do you call it out specifically? Like, and you can do it in like a cute way, but like, you're worth the best, or something like that. I'm trying to come out of.
So I think the best thing about marketing, especially content marketing, is that there's not like one right way to say something.
Yeah.
That because I think we all get so fixated on like, I need to say this one thing and it needs to get me a whole bunch of clients. Instead, I like teaching my clients to try and say things like in 100 different ways. Not only to get them to a place where they're like really confident on what it is that they're selling, but also your client needs to hear things, your potential client needs to hear things several different times in order to actually buy. And then hearing it from different angles helps them to really make it click, you know. So sometimes we like also we know something and then like the coach has coached us like 7 times on this thing and like on the 8th time you're like, oh, okay. I like understand it, just like the day and the situation and the things, and it just all comes together for you. So that's why content marketing is like also a very long game, because you're nurturing them and you're helping them understand. But like different ways of helping them understand this is, for example, like maybe calling them out and being like, if you know that you should be drinking more water, what do you think it is that's holding you back from doing it? You know, a lot of the times our brain is actually telling us that somebody else is more important than us hydrating and being more healthy. And so we, instead of that, knowing that you are actually worthy of this, and looking after yourself is really looking after everyone else. And I know it's such a cliche, like putting on your mask before others, but it is so, so important, you know. So there's really different ways of saying it. And in content marketing as well, which is the piece that I really love, is like the more specific you get in like the stories and the situations that your ideal clients find themselves in, the more they make that emotional connection. So for example, you might be like, you have gone to the fridge like 10 different times, opened it up and trying to see if something new is in the fridge, but there isn't, and you just close it and you go back again, or you like then start eating like the biscuits in the cupboard or something like that, you know. And we've all done that. We've all like opened the fridge, closed the fridge, opened the fridge, closed the fridge. And the more we use that specific like content, the more they go, yes, that is how I'm feeling. Exactly. So I think it's about saying it over and over in different ways until they resonate with that, and trying to, and also like depending on where you are in business, especially in the beginning, you are still learning like your ideal clients and how they're behaving and who it is you want to work with, maybe even. And so you will like, your content will change, the way you approach will change, and it will just get better and better and better. So I think really like trying to say what you're trying to say in 100 different ways will then lead to that one perfect thing that sells everyone in the end of the day.
So I love the exercise of having to write it 100 different ways. And I will challenge and recommend you entrepreneurs not to use ChatGPT for that, because you should go through the mental exercise of really sitting with it and feeling it out from a client's perspective. Lauren, I have so many favorite podcasts, but you are up there, girl. It's so good. Because I think you can, even if you're just a parent or an employee, not just obviously very important work, but even as an employee, I was just at a corporate event this week, and I could see all of this being relevant to like somebody's getting promoted, I'm not, the way people show up and talk about themselves in conference situations. I think this can help anybody, especially like relationships, family units. Can you talk a little bit about what you offer? Because I do think a lot of people will be interested in it. I am. And like how that looks, because a lot of times you're dealing with entrepreneurs. They have day jobs. They have this thing they're trying to start. I think sometimes we want to seek help, but we are afraid it's going to derail our schedules. So we like push it off, and thus we are not getting to the next level that we need to, because we're not getting the clarity to move forward. So can you talk a little bit about the commitment, the time commitment, what you offer, where people can find you?
Perfect. Yeah. So I have a 6-month coaching program that's one-on-one. So we have weekly calls where we work through exactly what it is that you are doing to get the clients and the money that you are seeking. And we make sure that that is solid and really simple, especially if you are in the beginning stages where you're not landing the amount of clients that you want, or the clients are not consistent, or you're not making the money that you want to be making. So we make sure that your strategy is solid. You know what you should be doing. It isn't all over the place. It isn't overwhelming. It isn't like 3 emails a week and 3 posts a day and all of the things. So we really make sure it's that. I help you then to get visible with networking and conversations and connections to ideal clients, but also with your content. So like I mentioned earlier, we look at imposter syndrome and how your ideal client might be experiencing it. And then I have frameworks and tools to help you to write better content that gets engagement, or that gets them selling. I also have like a bit of tech and design background. So if you're struggling with anything in terms of the tech side, then I help you with that as well. And so we have weekly calls, and then I help you to implement it. So whatever's happening that you have not gone to speak to 10 people this week, or whatever we have discussed that you're going to do, then we look at that and I give you tools. So imposter syndrome is one of the tools that I help you with the different tools. There's also different mindset tools and coaching methods that I help you with, so that you can uncover what that thought is actually creating for you. And so then in the end of the day, I help you to hit those goals with the mindset help and the marketing help and all of it in between. So there's also Monday to Friday support and weekly calls and all of the things that you need to get you to where you want to be.
That's awesome. Do you find that after the 6 months, people are usually in a better place, like that they probably use you in another capacity moving forward, but that they're able to like understand it in themselves and have systems in place to like help them work through it and move on?
Yes. So really each client is not always the same, but what I did see a pattern is like by the 4-month mark, we are hitting goals, but then to keep the momentum and to keep it in place, I made it 6 months so that I can get you the best results and maintain those results. Yeah, and then so from that 6 months, it really depends on where you are at in that in your business and the support that you want. But yeah, so there is follow through, and then there is people just going to the next level to what that looks like for them. So yeah.
And the thing I know about entrepreneurs is there's never a done, right? There might be like a plateau that has a like perception of I'm done, and then like we usually revel in that glory for 45 seconds, and then we like throw our. I just feel like who was it that I was watching? It was like a Tom Bilyeu podcast or something, and they're like uber successful people have like the worst not enoughness syndrome.
Yes.
Like they just never think they're good enough, so they always have to do. Which I guess is good and bad at the same time.
Yes, it depends on when it is like becoming burnout and toxic,
Yes.
or when it is actually like driving you to get to where you want to be. Like there's always that nuance to it, and I think everyone is different there. That's like the same with like I'm trying to change your negative thoughts and limiting beliefs into a positive one.
Right.
Like one that might work for me might not work for you at all. And so it's really just understanding yourself and like when do you need to rest and energize, and when do you need to go and push yourself a little bit more out of your comfort zone, because now you've actually just taken a step back into your comfort zone and things like that. So yeah.
Can you wrap us up by just telling people where to find you? I will link everything in your bio, but if you could just let people know like where to find you online, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so the best place would be Instagram. It's at laurensmit.com02. They didn't just have the .com. so you can follow me there, send me a message. I love connecting with everyone. If you found this really helpful and you have more questions, I'm happy to answer them there.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to re-listen to this because there's so much I'm going to take away from it and notes. And we usually ask to like leave with one tip, but I think you started with that, which is like just give your time like space to be present and like journal so you can get some of your thoughts out and you can start to work through some of what's holding you back. So Lauren, thank you from the bottom of my heart for making time out of your day to be here from South Africa. I definitely want to come see you. You're high on my list of people to come.
Oh yeah, you must come. It's a beautiful country.
I've traveled quite a bit. I have not been to Africa and I would love to go. So
it's
on
so
the list.
gorgeous.
I know,
so
I might not want to So
Probably will, but yeah, it's beautiful. We won't get into that.
that's another podcast topic.
That's another podcast. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I've loved being on here.
This was so fun, and I can't wait to see what our parents say. There are times where we have guests return. I get a lot of commentary and emails and questions, so I'll open it up for that if you're open to it. Maybe in the future we'll get some questions and even some like live Q&A stuff, because I think it's really helpful. But parents, just want to say thank you guys as always. We love showing up here for you. Hopefully this content is helpful and getting you to the next level in life and business, parenthood, whatever that is. You guys know the deal. We are pretty new still. So let us know what is valuable, what is helpful. Comment down below. Keep sending me emails. Please hit the subscribe button. It really helps to get the algorithm to recognize who we are and get our content out to more parents like us who are just trying to get better and raise better kids. And that can't be a bad thing. So guys, until the next perfect time, stay beautiful, stay inspired. Thanks for being here.